Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, the great emancipator, the man in the tall hat. We all know the story, or at least we think we do. But what if everything we've been told about Lincoln is part of the lie? What if Lincoln wasn't a simple US president, but something far older, far greater? What if Abraham Lincoln was actually a Tartarian king, a ruler from a forgotten empire, misplaced in time and rebranded by history? In this video, we're going to explore the hidden truth about Abraham Lincoln and the civilization of Tartaria, a civilization with advanced technology, free energy, and knowledge far beyond our current understanding. A civilization wiped from the pages of history, buried in mud, and replaced with a false narrative designed to control us. If you're new to the concept of Tartaria, you're about to go down a rabbit hole that will change the way you see the world around you. Tartaria was a global civilization, not just in Asia, as the old maps labeled it, but worldwide. Its architecture still stands today, repurposed as capitol buildings, train stations, courthouses, cathedrals, and yes, statues of Abraham Lincoln. We've been told these buildings were made by horse and cart settlers with chisels and ropes. But deep down, we know that's a lie. Now think about this. Why are there gigantic statues of Abraham Lincoln all over the United States? Why does he sit like a god on a throne in Washington, D.C., inside a Roman-style temple? This isn't just memorialization. This is worship. This is deification. That statue is 19 feet tall, towering over visitors like some ancient pharaoh. In Wyoming, there's a 13-foot-tall bronze bust of Lincoln mounted on a 20-foot granite pedestal. Why go to such extreme lengths? Why make him appear like a titan from myth? Because he was one. The Lincoln Memorial is said to have been built between 1914 and 1922, but some early photographs show trees surrounding the site that look far too mature to have grown within those few years. Could it be that the structure already existed, buried in mud or repurposed, and only later given a modern backstory? Mainstream history tells us Lincoln lived in the mid-1800s, yet his monuments feel far older, like relics of a civilization we were never meant to know about. Let's talk about giants. In an 1848 speech, Lincoln said something strange, and it has been quietly ignored ever since. He said, and I quote, "The eyes of that species of extinct giant, whose bones fill the mounds of America, have gazed on Niagara as ours do now." What did he mean by that? Why was Lincoln referencing extinct giants whose bones fill ancient mounds across America? Why would he mention something like that so casually? Because he knew. He knew that America had a hidden past. He knew the land had been ruled by giants and advanced beings long before the narrative of Columbus, pilgrims, and civil wars was created. The truth is, Lincoln wasn't just observing history. He was a piece of that ancient lineage. He was connected to the Tartarian bloodline. That's why his face and name have been elevated to near mythical status. He wasn't just president, he was royalty. Look at how Lincoln is portrayed: wise, tall, larger than life. His statues are on the scale of ancient kings and gods. Compare them to depictions of Zeus or Ramses or Caesar. He is seated like a king upon a throne, guarded by pillars that mirror ancient temples. You're not supposed to just admire him, you're supposed to worship him. Many of the buildings associated with Lincoln, including the Capitol and the White House, are said to have been constructed in the 1800s. But when you examine the detail, the materials, and the sheer scale of these structures, it becomes obvious. These were not made by 19th century laborers with horses and hammers. These are old world buildings, Tartarian, and Lincoln didn't build them, he inherited them. Now here's the question: why was Lincoln removed? Why was he assassinated? Because he knew too much. He was trying to preserve a system of power that didn't rely on banks, taxes, and corporate slavery. He was a threat to the globalist agenda that rose after the reset. That's the real reason they took him out, not because of war politics, but because of what he represented. The narrative was rewritten, his memory distorted, his empire reduced to a couple of schoolbook paragraphs. But the buildings remain, the statues remain, the energy remains. Lincoln's leadership, his wisdom, his vision, his refusal to let centralized banking take full control, all of this aligns with what we know about the old Tartarian monarchs. These kings were guardians of free energy, unity, and abundance. They didn't tax people to death or keep them locked in debt cycles. They empowered their people. And that's the opposite of the system we're trapped in today. Let's zoom out. What if the entire timeline we've been taught is false? What if the Civil War didn't play out the way we were told? What if there was no war at all? Just the destruction of the last Tartarian holdouts by a rising parasitic elite? What if the photographs, the textbooks, and the so-called evidence were manufactured to hide the truth? There's more. Abraham Lincoln's death in 1865, just months after supposedly winning the Civil War, conveniently removed him from power right as the Reconstruction era began. That Reconstruction wasn't about rebuilding America. It was about erasing what came before, burning books, rewriting history, burying the architecture, demonizing the past. And those massive Lincoln statues, they aren't just tributes, they're remnants, they're clues. They're the last echoes of a time when kings walked among us, when the world wasn't divided by borders, flags, and propaganda, when free energy lit up cities and architecture soared toward the heavens. But all of that was stolen, replaced with steel boxes and concrete jungles. We live in the ruins of a world we're not allowed to remember. So next time you see Abraham Lincoln in a textbook, a coin, or carved in stone, ask yourself, who was he really? And why does his image look more like a god than a man? They erased Tartaria, but they couldn't erase all the truth. Thanks for watching. If this blew your mind, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into hidden history and suppressed knowledge, because the past isn't dead, it's just buried.